The newly proposed tax reform bill, as proposed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been generating a lot of discourse online, most especially from northern leaders and some northern lawmakers. According to the Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, he said the bill will drag the northern states backward, pull the north into deeper economic challenge, and as well heightened the insecurity challenge as faced in the northern part of Nigeria. But according to Senate leader Michael Okoyemi Bamidele, he said, aim at simplifying the tax landscape, reducing the burden on small businesses, and streamlining tax collection. In today's video, we'll unpack the merits, demerits of the newly proposed tax reform bill, find out why the northern leaders are not in full support of this bill, why some Nigerians are calling for a kick against this newly tax reform bill, and why former presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has called for fairness with this new proposed tax reform bill. Hi guys, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, thank you for stopping by, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for always coming back to view my videos. My name is Elozino, and on this channel I share with you my thoughts, opinion on trending issues. Hit on the subscribe button if you are not yet a part of this family. Like, share, and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever I put up new videos. Today we'll be talking about the tax reform bill as proposed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I encourage you to leave your comments in the comment section as regards the newly proposed tax reform bill. So let's dive right into the video of today. So what is tax reform? Tax reform is the process of changing the way tax are collected or managed by the government. It is usually undertaken to improve tax administration and to provide economic benefits. This whole tax reform bill, as proposed by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had its roots in July of 2023 when the President inaugurated a fiscal policy and tax reform committee. Fast forward to October of 2024, this committee came up with a proposed tax reform bill. Some of the benefits of the proposed tax reform bill is that there will be an income tax relief on low-income earners. There will also be zero VAT charges on things like electricity, school fees, medical service, food items. This will ensure that prices stay low. Now this is where it gets tricky and why the northern leaders are quite uncomfortable with this whole proposed tax reform bill by the president is on the issue of the VAT sharing formula. Under this new sharing formula, 10% of the monthly revenue go to the federal government, 5% go to the state, and 35% will now go to the local government. The states will then use a sharing formula of 20-20-60. That is, 20% will now go for equality, 20% for population, and the bulk, which is 60%, will now go to derivation. Now, I'm going to explain all of this in a bit, but to further understand this and in comparison to the current sharing formula that Nigeria is currently operating, is federal government takes 15% of the monthly revenue generated by the state, and this 15% is what goes into repairing of roads and all other good stuff that they do with that money. From the 50% that goes to state, the state will now use a sharing formula of 50% sharing formula for equality, 30% for population, and 20% for derivation. Now, let me just quickly explain all of this: equality, population, and derivation. For equality, it means that it doesn't matter how much each state contributes to the monthly generated revenue, 50% will be used as a sharing formula for each state. So it doesn't matter if a state brings 200 billion and another state brings 1 million naira. 50% is going to be the benchmark for sharing that revenue. Now, from equality, we move to population. Now, this simply means that the higher the population in a state, the higher the amount that they get. Now, states that have higher population with this sharing formula tend to have more revenue. Some northern states that have high population have since benefited from this sort of sharing formula. For derivation, this simply means the more money you generate from your state, the more money you get. Now, the newly proposed tax reform policy allocates 60% to derivation. Now, this simply means that a state that generates more money, more revenue. This simply means that a state that generates more revenue gets more allocation at the end of the month. So states that does not generate so much revenue tend not to get so much revenue at the end of the month. This is one reason why the northern leaders are not cool with this whole new proposed tax reform bill. Now, some of the advantage from this newly proposed VAT sharing formula is that it's going to encourage states to generate more revenue. With this whole 60% derivation sharing formula policy, they would want to generate more revenue from that state, so at the end of the month they can get more allocation. It's also going to reduce over reliance on the federal government. It's also going to enable states to look inwards at those natural resources that some of these states have, and they have not really harnessed all of these because they've been depending so much on allocation from the federal government at the expense of other states. Now, if we want to go by this new sharing formula as proposed by this tax reform, this newly proposed tax reform bill, northern states that have high population, states like Kano, Sokoto, Borno, Niger, Kaduna, and Bauchi, just to mention a few of states, used to get an advantage of getting a high allocation from the federal government based on population and based on the 30% equality sharing formula, which we are currently operating now. If we are going by this newly proposed reform, it's not going to be like that for them, because going by this new sharing formula, they won't be eligible for all of that anymore. So now you see a reason why the northern leaders are not so cool with this newly proposed reform. Also, going by this new VAT sharing formula, states like Lagos State and Rivers State that bring in a whole lot of revenue at the end of the month are now entitled to gain a whole lot from this 60% derivation sharing formula. So you see why the governor of Borno State is saying that states like Lagos and Rivers States are the states which would now enjoy a whole lot from the 60% derivation sharing policy. You see? Some states in the southeast, some states in the southwest, and some states in the south region of Nigeria are also going to suffer from this 60% derivation sharing policy. So if this bill is passed, it means that bulk of the allocation will be based on how much you generate from your state. That is how much you will get back at the end of the month. So it's looking kind of dicey right now. But also, the former presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has called for transparency and fairness with this newly proposed tax reform bill. Now, based on these concerns from northern leaders, northern lawmakers, calling for the president to give them more time to understand the nitty-gritty of this tax reform policy. I really don't understand why they want to understand the nitty-gritty. It's clear, it's understandable. Now, if you follow the discourse on social media, a lot of Nigerians are in support of this new tax reform bill, but a lot of the backlash and the kickbacks is coming from the northern part of Nigeria. This is because, one, they have a large population, and based on the current VAT sharing formula that we are operating, they seem to gain a whole lot and they bring in so little to the table. States like Lagos and Rivers States and other states that seem to bring in a whole lot to the table, they go home with equal amounts with these northern states that do not contribute so much to the table. Now that there is a tax reform on the table, they are not so much in support of it because they are actually at the losing end of this whole thing if this bill seems to scale through. Now, guys, what's your thoughts on this whole VAT sharing policy? Do you think it's a welcome idea? Do you think this is another way of motivating states that do not bring so much to the table? Or do you think this is another ploy to put the North into deeper economic challenge? Share with me your thoughts in the comment section of what you think about this proposed tax reform bill. Do you think it's a welcome idea, or do you think this is another bill that should be jettisoned into the trash? Now, if you have watched this video up until this point and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Please hit on that subscribe button right now. Thank Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel if you have done so. Until I come your way again next time, stay true to yourself and remember, it's love from me. Bye, guys.